music. You are now entering a parallel universe.
And wipe your feet on the way in.
Marc Riley, BBC Six Music.
Didn't write it, Aaron Copland wrote it, and the great players, and it's well produced, and it's a brilliant piece of music, so leave it, eh? Emerson, Lake and Palmer, fanfare for the common man, unless we forget anyway, it was Rob Hughes who chose it.
I did, and I'm unrepentant about that. It is a great tune, that.
Quite right, brother.
So, do you know what? We're looking at the NME here, 20th of August, 1977. Yes, I'm paying homage to 1977, Mark.
Very good.
Interesting one. So, this is August 77. You look at the charts on page 2. There's this mix of old and new. Some revisionist, rock music history seems to suggest that punk came along and just swept everything in its path out the way. But as we know, that wasn't true, was it? You've got Sex Pistols here at number 15, pretty vacant. 2 places below that, you've got ELP, Fanfare for the Common Man. You've got the Ramones and the Jam in the top 30, but also Brotherhood of Man, Shawaddy Waddy, Boney M, Hot Chocolate, Commodores.
I know, and bands like Genesis, Peter Gabriel had left by this point, but Genesis started to get really, really big, and you've got ELO just taking off as well. So, yeah, and it is true, like you say, I suppose the line punk had to happen is from the perspective of punks. Because there'll still be a lot of hairy arse bikers and a lot of hippies out there saying, no, it didn't. It just got on my nerves for a couple of years and that was it. So, each to their own. That's why we play stuff like that, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, so battle lines have been drawn. Also, news page 3 here, the Roxy Review Punk Festival, which is due to be held at Witchbold near Droitwich this Saturday, has been cancelled. Last week, the owner of the site where the event was to take place, featuring a number of relatively unknown punk bands, withdrew permission for his land to be used. One of the organisers, Bob McNabb, alleged that the landowner had been influenced by persistent pressure from local residents determined to prevent the show. Well, the owner, Michael Hodges, told the NME that contracts hadn't even been agreed, and because it was to be a punk festival, he decided not to rent his land at all. So, obviously, already, punk bands, this reputation working against them.
Whatever the truth of the matter is, I suppose at the end of the day, the landowner has got to live amongst his neighbours, whereas the punks will come, do whatever they want to do, and then go again, and he's got to live with it. So, yeah, I kind of understand. I'm not going to have a punk festival in my back garden.
No, I wouldn't if I were you. Sound advice as well there. Punk signings, 2 more new wave bands, it says on page 5, have been snapped up by London record companies. Manchester group Slaughter and the Dogs last week signed to Decca and immediately began recording at the company's West Hampstead studios. And Swindon-based punks XTC have gone to the Pistols label Virgin. They're currently booked for London venues. They also appear at Tracy's in Redditch, Oasis in Swindon and Castaways in Plymouth. Interesting, isn't it? There was no, even apart from Stiff, there weren't really any indie labels around at this point. So a lot of punk bands, they were going to majors, weren't they? You probably didn't know what to do with them. We just thought, we'll snap them up anyway because this is what's happening. Yeah,
and the bands who got offered big contracts pretty much all took them, didn't they? That was kind of a lot of people questioned the fact that the Clash signed to CBS, but they weren't going to stay on an indie label, were they? Or even indeed begin on an indie label. So it was kind of inevitable, really. But it was all of that Scrittipality and Desperate Bicycles and all of those that started the ball rolling. Desperate Bicycles being the first one of them all, as I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking of the Clash get to appear on German version of Top of the Pops in Bremen alongside Tina Charles, Paul Nicholas and Dana. Turns out they're the first punk band to appear on German TV. It says here, when they went on the run-through of the show, they discovered they had to mime. It seemed very odd miming White Riot, their German single release. Wag that he is, Joe Strummer kept his back to the camera. Goes on to say that the following day, the day of the show itself, the band received a phone call from a TV station. Their presence was no longer welcome on Musikladen. They had not, they were told, mimed correctly. They left the dressing room in a bit of a state, and it was intimated they hadn't shown proper respect to the producer. Then when they went down to their hotel dining room for a bit of nosh, the downhearted chaps were told their clothes weren't suitable. It would appear Germany is not ready for punks, it says.
That Musikladen programme is great because it just surfaces every now and then. And
okay, I've not seen it.
Yeah,
okay.
they had some great performances on that.
Yeah, and on the same theme here on page 14, this is Max Bell reporting. He says, according to a report in last week's trade paper, Music Week, there's been a total ban imposed on punk rock in the Glasgow area. The City Fathers were apparently dismayed at the atrocities they witnessed in the punk special TV programme, and the ban followed as a result. The news came to light this week when Thrills learnt that Generation X were refused a licence to play, even after the local magistrates had granted one. Of more long-term significance, said Max, it would be interesting to know just how the police define a punk rock band. What happens if a major band of fabulously popular punks, for example, the Stranglers, the Ramones or Television, are scheduled to play at the Apollo? We'll keep you informed. Well, I think they did play at the Apollo, didn't they? The bands of a certain stature, of course they were allowed to play.
Yeah, and Television were hardly going to rip the place up, were they? I mean, they were boffins caught up in the scene, weren't they? But Generation X, again, they were a glam band, really, weren't they? I mean,
yeah.
I suppose it's the audiences that they're looking at, but yeah.
Absolutely. I wonder, they probably wouldn't allow Motorhead to play, would they?
I wouldn't have thought so. We're going to play a Motorhead tune now that I don't know. This is called Lost Johnny, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. It's got a proper ending, as you would expect from Motorhead, but that's more melodic than you would normally expect from them, isn't it?
It was a little bit mid-paced, to be honest, Mark. Yeah. Anyway, so we're looking at NME here, 20th of August 1977. So Motorhead's self-titled debut is out, a review by Monty Smith. He says, even if you never saw Lemmy playing bass for Hawkwind, or you haven't yet heard his latest combo, you'd probably gauge a pretty accurate idea of Motorhead's music from the severity of Joe Patagno's Savage Dog logo. This is better known as Snaggletooth, wasn't it, of course?
Yep.
From the same guy who did the Swan Song logo for Led Zeppelin, I think, as well.
Oh, really? Yes, the like Pegasus kind of
Yeah,
affair,
that's right.
Yeah.
I think it's Monty Smith likes it. It takes me a while to get there. He says, subtle it's not the merest trace of refinement or even a polished finish. Motorhead is spiky, spare, vicious and vacant, and then some. The rigorous compression imposed by Speedy Keen's production makes one wonder if the album wasn't cut in some far-flung urinal. He says, Speedy Keen got around, didn't he? He had his fingers in loads of pies.
I don't know Speedy King. Go on, educate me, Bob.
He wrote Armenia City in the Sky for the Who Sell Out album. He was a mate of Pete Townsend. He's involved with the Edison Lighthouse as well. He just seemed to be cropping up all over the place.
Right, okay.
Cultural points. So Wayne Kramer is interviewed here by Max Bell. At this point, he's serving time in Lexington Penitentiary for being caught selling stimulants to undercover federal agents, it says. He gets to interview him after going through a load of red tape, 25 minutes before he's due up before the parole board. MC5, of course, comes up a lot. Signed to Elektra same day as the Stooges, wasn't it, in 1968 by Danny Fields, famously.
Yeah, he signed the Stooges. He wanted the MC5 more than the Stooges, didn't he? But they kind of said, look, these are our brothers, just drag these along as well because they're great. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, so Wayne Kramer addresses this. He says, Elektra signed us. They figured the revolution was going to sell. Jack Holtzman, who was the president, thought it was great in theory, but finally he didn't have the heart. It was a little easier to control the doors, plus they sold records for a lot of different reasons. Jack wasn't an ally to the revolution. I like him, but he didn't know how to handle it well. We were a musically uncontrollable force. For a time it was cool with Elektra, but we learnt that somewhere along the line you have to conform to the rules, and I think the Stooges had the same experience as well, didn't they?
They did, and I don't know. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have seen Wayne Kramer playing live, which was actually at the Reading Festival back in the dark ages. But if you look at the footage of the MC5 on stage, Wayne Kramer is in the top 3 most exciting guitarists ever, I would say. When you see him do that shuffle with the guitar held upright in the air, reaching to the sky, it's just mind-blowing. And and a great player as well, obviously, but
Yeah, of course. Just brilliant. And also, there's an obvious comparison to be drawn here over the rise of MC5 and the birth of British punk. Kramer says the core reasons are a bit different. He says, I've been reading a lot about your punk rockers, and that seems to be comparable. The musical movement was an idea born out of American culture, he says, because the same pace and climate didn't exist in England. The difference wasn't socio-political, it was at gut level. Growing up here in the States gives you fuel for the fire. So it's just perhaps different reasons, different causes, that kind of thing.
Got a great autobiography out as well, hasn't he? Which I can't remember what it's called, but
yeah, me neither.
It's not Have Guns Will Travel, is it? It's not that one. No, maybe not.
I'll find out in the interim. And should we go to Patti Smith, because she's riding high, isn't she?
Okay, yeah. This is Ask the Angels. Here, Bob Hughes over there with the parallel. Patti Smith, Ask the Angels, Mark Riley here, Bob Hughes over there with the parallel universe.
Indeed, we'll look at the NME, 20th of August 1977. Incidentally, that Wayne Kramer book, we both found out, is the hard stuff, isn't it?
That's right.
So gigs this week, you've got Generation X at Hackney Town Hall, that's part of Rock Against Racism. Japan at the Village Inn in Wembley. Squeeze at the Hope and Anchor in Islington. Elvis Costello at the Nashville Rooms in London. It says here, tickets available from Stiff Records, £1 each. Jonathan Richman, the Modern Lovers at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester. Wow.
I remember that, but I didn't go for some reason.
Oh, sadly. Electric Chairs featuring Wayne County at the Woods Centre in Plymouth. The Damned and the Adverts at the Sundown on Charing Cross Road. So this is a famous one, wasn't it? You had big poster flyers outside, and the Adverts know 1 chord, the Damned know 3, come and hear all 4 at blah,
That's
blah,
right,
blah.
yeah.
The Edgar Broughton Band at the Night Spot in Bradford. The Reformed Small Faces at Leeds Grand. Tom Robinson Band at the Brecknock in Camden. Martin Carthy at Heaton Moor Folk Club. And Heavy Metal Kids at Sheffield Top Rank. And at Long Marston Aerodrome, you got Wayne County, the Adverts, the Slits, the Prefects, and X-Ray Specs. There's a lineup.
Yeah.
Edinburgh Rock Festival, very eclectic, this lineup. You got Chelsea, the Rosillos, Radio Stars, Swinging Blue Jeans, Elvis Costello, Nashville Teens, Boomtown Rats, Jet Harris, and Bert Jansch and his band. Something for everyone.
Swinging Blue Jeans and Bert Jansch alongside all those punk and new wave bands. That's
Absolutely,
really
Mark.
Right.
Yeah, very odd indeed. Teasers on the back page. It says, an unfortunate occurrence ruined David Bowie's enjoyment of the Man Who Fell to Earth's Paris premiere. A bit late, wasn't it? August 77. Seconds after he gave his scarf to an overzealous fan, another one tried to swipe Bowie's wallet. David panicked and, hissing out awkwardly at the thief, incurred a broken thumb. Meanwhile, Bowie's follow-up to The Man Who Fell to Earth will be Wally, it says here, and filming will commence at the end of the summer. Bowie will play the part of expressionist painter Egon Schiele.
I thought this was a precursor to Where's Wally, and he'd just wander around in the middle of loads of people with a bobble hat on and round glasses. It wasn't that then.
Perhaps he should have done that. That probably would have made more money, because that film didn't get made, did it?
No.
Elsewhere, Ron Wood and Jimmy Page play a charity gig on Sunday in Plumpton in Sussex for a Children's Playing Fields Association. The attendance was 140, honest. And scurrilous rumours proliferate concerning the eyesight of Elvis Costello. Some claim the bespectacled rocker has perfect vision and lenses of plain glass. This reminded me of that Eric Sykes story, because didn't he just have frames and then no glass in his glasses?
What it was with Eric Sykes is he had a hearing aid in his glasses.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'm not even being facetious for once in my life. He had a little microphone in it, and the earpiece would be in the stem of the glasses. So there you go, learning curve for you, Bob.
Oh, I'm so glad I mentioned it. Right, now that makes sense. Pink Floyd's Roger Waters still does the pools, it says here. Obviously, that last light show cost more than they bargained for. He says, my lifestyle will not be changed at all by a win, says Waters. And Rod Stewart, in tow with Susan George, refused to leave his limo on arrival at Alice Cooper's recent LA gig until enough photographers had assembled to take his picture, so it says.
Nice.
Live review front, you got Sham 69 at the Roxy very quickly. Tony Parsons, certainly smitten, goes on to describe Jimmy Percy as a star. I says, I don't want this to sound like I've seen the future of rock and roll, but it makes me think of the word bottle. And if Janet Street Porter asked me for a definition of the word, I would show her this geezer, Jimmy Percy. With all due respect to Jimmy Percy, I don't think he was ever the future of rock and roll, was he?
I wouldn't have thought so, no.
No, certainly not.
But Donna Summer wasn't either, was she?
No, but she was the future of pop for a while.
She certainly was. It wasn't Eno who said to Bowie, I've heard the future. And it was I Feel Love, as I understand it. Or
Yeah.
OK, Bob, we got to go. Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
You take care. I'll speak to you soon. All right, then. So, Gid is next, and we're going to leave you with Donna Summer, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Prepare to exit the parallel universe.
Marc Riley, BBC 6 Music.
And shut the door on your way out.